say that pianist, composer Fabian Almazan is a committed environmentalist is an understatement. He is so much that he started a record label, Biophilia Records, that does not print CDs or vinyl records. So how does he sell recordings? Each CD sleeve has a digital code that buyers use to purchase the tracks. And if that's not enough, all recording artists who sign on to the label must commit to certain environmental principles and act on those. He believes all recording artists will do what they can and give in their way to address climate change. Hi, I'm Steve Browngen, and this is Strictly Jazz Sounds, your place for a conversation about all things jazz. Pianist, composer, and Biophilia Records founder and owner Fabian Almazan is my guest in this episode. Fabian was born in Cuba, raised in Miami, lives in Harlem in New York, and is now in school at Harvard University in Boston, working on a PhD on some deep-thinking topic soon to be decided, but is using this unique opportunity to study numerous issues related to the environment. He is one heavy cat. Fabian ponders many things, such as, what does environmentalism have to do with making music? Well, it's all part of feeling a connection with the natural world, a type of biophilia. His thinking and way of life seem to be rooted in this term. So I looked it up in the encyclopedia and asked Fabian how it's related to the music. The biophilia hypothesis, according to Britannica, is an idea that humans possess an innate tendency to seek connections with nature and other life forms. Fabian says this explains why New Yorkers will pay outrageously high prices to live near Central Park. The relationship to jazz is that his commitment to environmental justice is intricately connected to the freedom demonstrated by jazz. They are sustainable entities. In this episode, Fabian Almazan shares some very personal perspectives about environmental injustice and the importance of sustainability in how we all must live. He's also deeply concerned and passionate about assuring that our children are exposed to music and other artistic expression. It's the disparate worlds that pains him as they leave so many children behind. We talked about the efforts he's making to affect change on the natural environment and reducing the disparities that brown and black youth and children have, giving them increased access to the arts, especially jazz. Just a reminder to subscribe so you can be informed when the episodes are released. Share with your friends and family. And by the way, this is festival season, and so support live jazz wherever you may live and visit. This podcast features 2 recordings by Fabian Almazan that can be found on his 2019 release, This Land Abounds with Life, with his trio featuring Linda Mahon O on bass and Henry Cole on drums, and a clip from the track Russian Love Story from his album Personalities with the same trio. To begin the conversation, I asked Fabian how the record label creates a bond between people and other living systems.
Well, I have the utmost respect for music as an art form itself. So I don't so much curate the music that the musicians bring to the label, but I do try to attract a certain type of artist that does care about sustainability and climate change and environmental justice. That I think is what glues us all together, what creates a sense of community. The fact that although our music is varied, our sort of personal feelings about climate change and environmental justice and things like that are in a similar sort of vein.
I love the term environmental justice. This was a term that the Reverend Jesse Jackson used during his 84 and 88 presidential campaigns. And it's something that I've been using for many, many years since then.
Well, there's a school of thought now that rather than calling it environmental justice, that it should be called environmental injustice, which I think is more accurate.
That points out just exactly what the issue really is,
Yeah.
as the world has to face the injustices that humans have imposed on our environment and have destroyed so much of it already. Tell me, how well are the musicians who are part of this, how well are they engaged in the environmental requirements for being part of the label? How well is that being executed?
Well, I mean, we're all different, so different people have varying involvements in their participation. I think that the pandemic definitely changed the dynamics for me as far as my involvement in the community. My son was born. We call him a coronial. He was born in the midst of the pandemic before there was a vaccine or anything. So the involvement in the community kind of dissipated a little bit, but it's picking back up now. Um, I've never wanted to come across as preachy or anything like that with a label. So I do believe that the artists do care about sustainability and climate change. So that's not something that I monitor per se. I just have conversations with them uh, leading up to the release of their album. And yeah, as I mentioned, I don't want to ever come across as condescending or preachy. I personally care about climate change and sustainability, and I'm trying my best to just live my life according to my moral compass. I hope that other people do as well, but I don't have any illusions of creating clones of myself or anything like that. Um, Me personally, I've decided to come back to school now. I'm studying at Harvard, and I've taken climate change classes. So that's the way that I'm trying to educate myself further on this existential crisis that we're experiencing right now.
Let's continue with what else you're doing at Harvard. I'm going to gather that you're doing other music composing as well, or are you strictly focusing on the environment?
Well, I'm in my second semester now. The first semester was much more theoretical and sociology and anthropology, things like that. But this semester, yeah, I'm taking composition classes with Haya Chernoens, who is a classical composer. I'm also taking some electronic music classes with Hans Tukchu. Um, I'm also taking a class which deals more with the art world. It's doing installations and sound art and things like that as well.
What goals do you have? Are you looking at a direction change in what you're doing, or are you looking at enhancing the things that you have been doing?
I don't have a specific plan per se. Uh, I have a goal of growing as an artist, uh, learning more about what ails the world at this particular moment, and what comes of that, we'll see.
You provided a wonderful masterclass on how to teach oneself to play whatever instrument, and for you, of course, that's the piano. If you don't mind, I want to ask you some of these questions because I'm curious from your perspective how you would respond to them and think about your life in this way. Is that okay?
Sure.
Um, how important is self-examination to playing music? And what do you have to offer as an artist?
Wow, right off the bat, light questions. Well, as an art, I think every art. Well, I guess the question's geared specifically to me. So, as an artist, my life experiences, I think, have shaped my aesthetic identity. So, I was born in a communist regime, dictatorship in Cuba that I lived in till I was 9 years old, and then We crossed the border from Mexico into Texas and claimed political asylum. So that there's a certain amount of life experience there, albeit I was a child, but it's ingrained into my psyche, I think, going through those experiences, which is safe to say. I think it's a certain type of a trauma. Um, I've been very fortunate in my life to travel all over the world, and I've met people from all walks of life, all sorts of cultures, all sorts of ideologies. So that, I think, has also played a role in my view of life and how to live the world. And it's something that I try to share through my music and my art. And for that matter, I don't think I should even say my music because I don't think it belongs to me. I'm just sort of the person that's plucking it out of the universe and sharing it with people. As far as questioning who I am, it's probably the most important thing because, and I only speak for myself, but it's what brings honesty to the art that we produce. If we're constantly asking ourselves why we're doing it and where it's coming from, um, I think the end result, it's up to the listener how they feel about it, but it's a genuine expression. And I think the best thing in the world is when somebody is themselves. So
What are your aesthetic preferences?
I think I don't know if I'm just making this up in my mind, but I feel like when I see a work of art or I hear sound created by a person that is intended to be art, if it's coming from a place of honesty and love for the practice or the art form, I feel like that's very recognizable to me. So aesthetically, um, I guess it's a wide spectrum of things that appeal to me, but there's that sort of undefinable element of honesty within it that I feel I can recognize pretty quickly. Again, it might all be made up in my mind, but that's what it feels like.
You used the term programmatic music. Could you describe that and how do you relate to it?
Well, programmatic or program music is a term that's been around for a while now. Um, at least in Western culture, Debussy is attributed as the person that really embraced it. Um, so, program music is basically music that is not merely about music for music's sake, but it's a reflection of an experience that the composer had, or a place, or there's a thing called tone poems or symphonic poems, which are intended to be about a specific subject or an actor, rather than music for music's sake.
So it has a particular goal. Is that correct?
Well, it varies from work to work, but essentially it's an attempt at the composer to portray through music a specific subject. Depending on what that subject is, yeah, perhaps there's an end goal.
So how does this relate to the music that you perform, that you compose?
Well, for me, I think there's two sides to that coin. I am on one side, and the listener is on the other. I guess I'm a listener as well, but in creating the music, for me, it's more like a therapy for me. As a as quote unquote Fabian Almazan, I need an outlet for a lot of abstract emotions and just things in life that I want to celebrate or question. I mean, right now, throughout the world, there's a lot of things to celebrate, and there's some really awful things happening that is very hard for me to process and to be able to put into words. So, music is necessary for me to be able to let all those things out of my system. Now, as far as the listener, I don't want anybody to listen to the music that I create on my terms. I want people to listen to the music on their terms. It's medicinal, whatever they need to get out of the music, I hope that they get it. Uh, I don't want to force anyone to like a specific type of music and dislike another. Um, so it's very, whatever a listener needs, that's the right thing for them.
So it sounds like you have a real good idea of the things that capture you, things that are necessary for you to become a musician.
I guess. I mean, it's as an artist, I think it's a one of the elements of the bigger picture is a certain responsibility that if there is something that moves you profoundly, it's your responsibility to share it with the rest of society because there are people out there that would benefit from it. Um, that's a sort of a basic level of commitment that I think is a must if you're truly an artist.
You know, I really liked the question or the point that you made about music that resonates with you, to consider what is that music that resonates the most. I know for me, the music that resonates the most is John Coltrane's A Love Supreme. I understand that for you, it's Ravel's Piano Concerto in G, the second movement, Adagio. What does this say to you?
Well, it's funny because Walt Whitman says I am made of multitudes, uh, and I think I am too because that would have been my answer a few days ago, even. But I don't know if it's my answer now that Ravel's G major piano concerto, the second movement. um,
What's changed? What's made this change?
well, so uh, one of the professors at Harvard, one of the assignments is to bring in your favorite recorded music uh, and discuss it. So I went back and really tried to look at all of the music that I've listened to. And so when I first moved to New York in 2003, I used to go to the Lincoln Center Public Library of the Arts. And I know that it's changed, but back then they had aisles and aisles and aisles of CDs. And I would literally just walk down random aisles and put my finger on a random CD, and I'd get 10 of these CDs and take them home. And one of those CDs was the music of the Sahara in Africa. And to this day, I have no idea who is playing on this one track, what is being sung, what instruments are being played. But there's something very timeless about music that's produced on instruments that are relatively easy to make, that not like a piano, which requires extreme engineering. There's something uh, that ties the past, the present, and the future about folk music, folkloric music. Uh, so yeah, I mean, I can send you the track that I'm referring to because it's very difficult for me to describe it. But
Oh, I would love that.
yeah, I don't know. The orchestra, the orchestra seems kind of like the music of the heavens, and lately I'm a lot more drawn to the earth. The things that human beings deal with, regardless of culture, just love, pain, all those things. And I think there's a certain timelessness in a folk music. And I guess I'm specifically talking about Saharan or sub-Saharan traditional music that just, I don't know, it's made me sort of reassess and re-question everything about music.
And that sounds like a real positive thing, though. Something that so many people do not do in their lives, myself included, so many times. We don't pause to reflect and ask some of those very hard questions.
I think the older we get, the more daunting it is to embrace change, and to embrace growth and evolution, because we kind of settle into ourselves, which is understandable. But I mean, somebody like John Coltrane, I mean, I can only dream of what he would have evolved to had he lived longer. I agree with you. A Love Supreme is, yeah, it's from another galaxy. It's absolutely engrossing and beautiful.
I hear something in it every time. I hear something different in it every time.
For me, the John Coltrane recording that just grips me every time, like it feels like somebody just took their hand and has it over my heart, is Live at the Village Vanguard. The one that starts with "Softly as in a Morning Sunrise."
Morning sunrise. Yeah.
Oh man, Chasing the Train. It's about, I think it's 18 minutes long or something. I mean, to this day, I just have goosebumps the entire time I'm listening to that. There's just something transcendental about it.
That was the way the members of the quartet speak to each other, respond to each other. They sort of ask questions to each other and they have a response.
And every time that I am so immensely lucky to sit down at that chair, the sit on stage at the Vanguard, to play there as a musician, it's very difficult. It always takes. I mean, I don't think I ever fully get over the fact that John Coltrane was on that stage, and that music that has shaped so much of my life, the sound waves that existed there and were absorbed by the walls and the floor. It's just too much. It's hard for me to. I can't process it. It's overwhelming. The emotion.
How were you able to get through the first time that you played there?
I didn't. I still haven't gotten over it. I don't think I ever will.
You have a phrase that says that be at home with the irrational, the inexplicable, and abstract. What do you mean by that?
I mean, I think, again, it's just me. Everybody is free to be who they are, but for me, I think the longer that I ignore um, the irrational, the less sense things make. I guess I don't know. It's kind of a paradoxical to say that, but yeah, I think as an artist, we're almost like a mixture of scientists and holy people. That there's the unknown in the world, and it's not necessarily that we're trying to answer the questions, but we're trying to pose the questions in the most provocative ways possible. And that requires, yeah, being at home with the irrational and the abstract, and all those things that are inexplicable, uh, ethereal. Um,
You took a recording from the group KRS-One and and you turned it into a composition on personalities, Russian love story. That was amazing. Can you describe? I know this is an audio recording, but could you describe how you did that? I was amazed by it. I really was. You described it on the video, and I went back to it to listen to it, and I was moved by it.
cool, that's great. Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, so the line in KRS is one, selling me, compelling me. So selling me, compelling me. Selling me is 3 beats. So 1, 2, 3. Selling me, compelling me is 4 beats. So 3 plus 4 is 7. So selling me, compelling me, selling me, compelling me, selling me, compelling me. Um, yeah, I think a lot of my peers, I think we come from a generation in jazz that is obsessed with stepping outside uh, 4/4, which just means 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, which 90% of music uh, is typically in that sort of pulse. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, that's the standard beat. Yes, right.
Yeah, so to hear KRS-One, and I was living in the Bronx at the I lived in the Bronx for 2 years, and this was one of those albums that I got from the public library in New York. It's called Life by KRS-One, and he, for hip hop connoisseurs, he's about as Bronx as you can possibly get. Um, so yeah, Russian Love Story, the the program music side of it. Uh, I lived with an older man for a while who graciously offered that I would live that I could take up a room in his apartment for dirt cheap when I was very very poor. Um, and he was an avid listener of operas and tone poems and Russian love tone poems. The title Russian Love Story has taken in a very different context considering what's going on in Ukraine right now. But at the time,
Oh, I bet it has. Yeah.
yeah. But there were there. Uh, I don't remember all of their names, but there was a school in Russia that they started. These composers started, like Rimsky-Korsakov and Stravinsky. All these composers started writing sort of these poems with open-ended structures for orchestra. So Russian Love Story was dedicated to Paul, the older man that I lived with, who introduced me to all of this tone poem symphonic works. And on the meter side of it, on the pulse side of it, I was just so surprised by KRS's track where out of nowhere he has this line, selling me, compelling me, which is in 7 in the context of it. The entire rest of the track is duple meters in 4, and it's just popped out at me immediately. So yeah, I just merged those two worlds together. Russian Love Story is in 7/4 for the most part. It's which is selling me, compelling me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So yeah, without getting too much into the specific, like without getting under the hood or the bonnet, as they say in Australia, that's essentially the story behind Russian Love Story.
It's a delightful composition, and I certainly urge our listeners to get into it. Because here in Strictly Jazz Sounds, we spend time with a variety of music, and I found it very delightful. What I also found wonderful to spend time with was the video that you did, Yamaha Live, where you performed numerous compositions that you've written. There was also a free improvisation, and this was at the Yamaha Music Australia using electric manipulation. Can you explain the technology you use? Can you describe this? And you're taking a class now that, or had taken a class that has been working with you on this. Can you explain what you did or how you do this?
Yeah, well, I will say that I view electronics in the same way that I view the piano, which is just a means to an end. I don't mean to belittle the piano, but I mean that they're both instruments, they're both tools. Um, and as a composer and a musician, and I think a lot of my peers would probably say the same thing. We're constantly in search of new sounds that, yeah, and I'll just leave it at that. We're hunting constantly for new sounds. We want to hear something new that we've never heard before. Uh, so that's what I'm attempting to do, merging the acoustic world and the electronic world together. I'm really just trying to tap into specific sort of feelings that are in that wide spectrum of emotion that we experience as human beings that really shine uh, with the instruments of the piano and electronics. It's the same. I mean, you can tap into a certain uh, emotion when you sit down and you play a drum set, and you can tap into another sort of emotion when you hear a string quartet. So this is just another timbre to explore, to tap into human emotion. I will say that the one sound that really sticks out to me that I heard that just completely blew my mind, it was a new sound I had never heard, and it sounded like the universe. And it's what's kept me going, that I'm constantly trying to find new sounds. It was at the Memphis Drum Shop, uh, where they have one of the largest collections. Well, I shouldn't say largest. One of the most extensive collections of gongs and tam tams in the world, and they have the biggest tam tam in the world. And to hear the sound of that, essentially it's just vibrating metal, it's pretty it's pretty hard to describe what it sounded to me like the sound of the universe. And I was not on any drugs whatsoever, had not drank anything, completely sober, but it had the same effect as if I would have been on some sort of LSD or something, which I've not ever done. But that's sort of, it's sort of like an addiction where you're constantly searching for a sound, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be quote unquote musical. Whatever new sound can just get in your brain and in your body and just kind of vibrate you in a new way that you haven't been vibrated in before. Uh, yeah, that's what I'm trying to do with whenever I do crazy, silly things like hooking up a bunch of electronics to an acoustic piano.
A lot of folks talk about Herbie Hancock having to learn his skills in using electronics as part of his education because he learned through engineering, electrical engineering. He got his degree in that. Where did you gain your experience in electronics and your use in jazz and composition?
Well, I've always made sure not to be next to a window because it's a very frustrating endeavor.
You're self-taught, is that correct?
Yeah, as I think the majority of people are when it comes to this. Um, yeah, just a lot of experiment, a lot of trial and error, mostly error. I don't have a degree in engineering, so yeah, just a lot of experimenting, a lot of gear that I've tried out, a lot of money that has just gone. It's definitely a rabbit hole. But I think the most important thing is to have some sense of what it is, what sound it is that you're imagining, and then just having an open mind and open heart in the quest of bringing to the real world the sound that you're imagining. There's also a beauty and an excitement in just experimenting without any real end goal. But yeah, I mean, I was fortunate to play in bands like Terrence Blanchard's and my wife's, where the band leaders are very open to me experimenting with these things.
And they experiment as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Linda's been experimenting with pedals lately, and it's nice to see.
Yeah. The way I see this is an example of sampling the unknown, learning from the unknown until it becomes known.
Yeah, and then keep going and find more unknown.
I was also caught by a video of a recording that was made of your experience at PS 81 Thaddeus Stevens School in Brooklyn. And you were inspired by your sister to play the piano. And here you're inspiring these young students to play. Can you describe what happened there? And did you experience that same kind of inspiration?
Well, I mean, you'd have to talk to the students that were there that day. You know, I don't feel like I should speak for them. But hopefully
Did
they,
they speak to you?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's been a while. It's been years since that. So I don't remember all of the specifics. Um, but they seemed happy. They seemed like they enjoyed it. Um, yeah, I was just hoping to bring which what I think is, I humbly say this, kind of rare music. I'm not saying good or bad, but just rare to have that specific ensemble, which is a string quartet plus drums, bass, piano, and voice. I just wanted to bring that to a group of children that might not ordinarily be exposed to that. Uh, with the end goal of just making them feel present and acknowledged, and considered, part of this bigger picture, and not forgotten. I just wanted them to be involved, to feel like they could be involved. I just want to give a shout out. That was thanks to the Chamber Music America. They made that possible. Without the help of Chamber Music America, that would not have happened.
And it's so important to have those kinds of organizations provide that kind of support so that the music can find its way into our public schools or our schools, period, regardless of being public or private, but exposing young people to the music, which so many schools now do not provide because they can't afford it.
We spoke about environmental injustice earlier, and I think it relates to this as well. There's as a relatively new parent, I view the world differently than I used to. Um, Children deserve the best. they deserve they deserve everything, and I just, I lived in Harlem. I still live in Harlem, and I've traveled throughout the world, and it feels very unfair that the victims of greed are children. And by no means am I advocating for communism or socialism or anything like that. Having lived in it, I do not wish to ever go back to that, or wish it upon anyone. But there must be some way that there can be justice for the youngest human beings on this planet. They deserve to have a, a quality of life, and they deserve exposure to the arts. Um, it really pains me to see the youngest of children n- not come into this world, like just right off the bat. As soon as they're born into this world, it's already not fair. They're already not having the opportunities that other more privileged children have. And it's just, sorry, I know I'm getting off on a tangent here, and it's probably partly due to me becoming a parent, being an artist, and being here at Harvard. It just feels like there's all these disparate worlds that it should all come together somehow. And it's just it's frustrating to me, the the yeah, it's just unfair the way that children get treated. They're victims of essentially greed and ideologies that adults pursue.
When we, as parents, see these things, is is it not our requirement in our lives to provide that for our children in as best of way as we can?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the message right there.
And I don't know if I should be saying this publicly or not, because, it's in line with what we're talking about. I played in Nantucket last summer, a few solo piano concerts, and I don't know if your listeners have ever been to Nantucket, but it is an extremely wealthy place, from the outside. But I came to learn that the public school system in Nantucket has a predominantly Latin American community of children that don't have anywhere near or close to the financial means that other children on that island have. So I've been talking to the Nantucket Community Music Center there to establish some sort of program where lower income families have the opportunity to engage specifically with jazz and improvised music. So we're trying to develop a program there so that young children can have the same access to the arts, in terms of jazz, as wealthier children can. Yeah, just felt like I should put that out there, because I feel like it's an important thing for artists to do, to try to make sure that people don't get, especially young people, don't get left behind.
It's the same mentality of the environmentalism, where we are stewards of what is around us, of the land that we're on, the water that we drink and that flows down and builds up into reservoirs or in the lakes. We are stewards of all of that. We are stewards of life, the life that we give our children, other people's children. If we can give it, we should do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fabian, this has been a wonderful conversation. Any other projects that you have in the works?
Yeah, last December, I premiered a work called "We Call This Home," which deals with environmental justice in South Florida, where I interviewed people from different historically and currently discriminated against communities surrounding environmental justice, and that's something that I hope to continue to conduct more interviews with people from different parts of South Florida that are experiencing environmental injustice. There's a few other things that I'm kind of hoping to start that deal essentially with the natural world and climate change and sustainability. But they're very it's just ideas at this point. I haven't actually started to work on these projects yet.
Fabian Almazan continues his PhD studies at Harvard while working on a project in Miami. And he looks forward to some travels, including to here, Columbus, Ohio, as we continue to celebrate Jazz Appreciation Month. And before I close, I should remark that Fabian is a Grammy Award recipient for the work he did with trumpeter Terrence Blanchard. He also does film soundtracks and hopes to do one on a film about climate change. Thanks to Fabian for offering the music from his recordings that can be found on This Land Abounds for Life for the podcast. The theme music is from the composition McCoy, which is graciously provided by Johannes Wallman from his album Precarious Towers. And remember to subscribe and offer any feedback about this podcast. I can only do better. Upcoming guests including Jonathan Avishai, Brian Blade, Jan Arabigan, and Laura Ann Gentry. Thank you for listening. This is Strictly Jazz Sounds, your podcast for conversations about all things jazz. I'm Steve Browngen.